I got a Monstera Deliciosa cutting online that arrived with no aerial roots or root bumps. Even there was an aerial root from here that was cut back. So this cutting needs to be rooted again, but such cutting easily rots or takes forever to root if not maintained properly. So in this video, I'm going to share how I successfully grow this much root of this Monstera Deliciosa cutting without rotting. First, let me introduce how the cutting has arrived. This is a freshly cut top cutting from a mature Monstera Deliciosa plant. Although the cutting has no aerial roots or root bumps, it has two viable nodes, and these nodes contain auxin hormone that stimulates roots and shoots if it gets a suitable environment. Now the cut end should have a clean cut and healed for 1 to 2 hours before being set for propagation. Now we need to choose an authentic way to root this cutting successfully. Such Monstera cuttings can be propagated in leca, perlite, and directly in potting soil. However, since this cutting has no roots, I would like to go with the water propagation method. This method will allow me to observe the root growth as well as prevent rotting at the earlier stage. So here I have taken a glass jar and filled it with water. Then gently immerse both nodes in water. Now the cutting has set to root, and here is some maintenance that I followed to make this cutting grow vigorous roots successfully. This point is about how much light I provided to keep the cutting alive and helped in rooting, because although it's cutting, it still needs light as a source of food and energy. I kept the propagation jar in a bright place where the cutting was receiving 4 hours of bright indirect light. Generally, 4 to 5 hours of bright indirect light is sufficient to make a cutting root. Now, if I specify the bright places where you can keep the cutting, then the north-facing window or balcony and the east-facing balcony with no direct sunlight are the perfect places you can keep the propagation jars. We also can keep under the grow lights. 7 to 8 hours of light through grow lights are ideal for rooting any plant's cuttings. Now, I kept the cutting in a bright place until I saw any root growth. As soon as the cutting has both primary and secondary roots, I gradually increased the light exposure. From 4 hours of bright light, I started providing 5 hours of bright light as the cutting forming roots. Not only the light exposure, the water level and the environment of water also need to be taken into consideration to prevent rotting and successfully root the cutting. I barely change the water because as we start cuttings in water, the cut end and the growth areas, which are the nodes, release the rooting hormone into the water, creating a positive environment for the cutting to form roots. So at this point, frequent water changes can make the cutting release that rooting hormone again and again and may delay the process. I only changed water if I noticed algae or any microbial growth in the water. Sometimes you may notice the cut end is turning brown or rot, and that needs to be cut back if it is spreading. Otherwise, add water as soon as the water level declines from the node level. As I immersed both nodes of the cutting, I added water every week, but the frequency of adding water has increased as the cutting starts to develop roots. Another thing I do is I don't disturb the cutting by taking out the cutting from the jar or by changing location every week. The cutting pushes new shoots as it forms roots, so frequent movement can deform the new leaves. So the cutting took 2 entire months to form these many roots. I could repot as soon as the cutting formed primary and secondary roots, but I left the cutting to grow a good amount of roots because that will help the cutting to adjust to the growing media fast. Now I'm going to repot this plant using my Monstera Deliciosa soil mix. If you want to learn the potting mix recipe, then check the video that is displayed on the screen. Thank you so much for watching this video, and we will see you in the next one.